All right, ladies and gentlemen, wanted to do a video. Here I am in my room. My wife's teaching the 6th grade on a Zoom class. I wanted to give you guys a background on the Jim Crow assignment. Might help you see it from my point of view. The question is, what made me decide to choose Jim Crow for assignment 2? And there's two answers. There's an easy answer and there's a more profound, more deep, more true answer. And I'm going to give you both answers. So the easy answer is, well, Jim Crow, it's a relevant current event. I mean, we had George Floyd, we have rising white nationalism in this country, an appetite for this type of white ethno-fascism is growing. So it's a relevant current event. And the other answer, it's pretty easy, is there's just amazing popular culture manifestations that address Jim Crow and racism. I'm thinking of the amazing movie Black Panther. I'm thinking of Get Out. I'm thinking of the amazing video by Childish Gambino called This Is America. I mean, these are riveting accounts of what's going on. Not only in America, but in the world, but unique to America in some ways. And so that is that's the easy answer. But I want to give you a more honest, more profound answer for me personally. How I came to this assignment. So as I make this video, I'm 59 years old, and I was raised in the San Francisco Bay Area in the 1960s and 70s. And the more profound answer is, believe it or not, sports. Sports is the prism of which I see American history, racism, and Jim Crow. Let me explain that to you. I grew up in the suburbs near Oakland in the San Francisco Bay Area. And in my elementary school, they gave us what I would call a Disneyland version of history. Everything's sweet and beautiful, and George Washington cut down the cherry tree, and the Pilgrims shared gifts with the Indians on the Mayflower, and Christopher Columbus discovered America. I got a really squeaky clean Disneyland perfumated version of American history. But here's the thing, I was obsessed with baseball. And at my school, in the 4th and 5th and 6th grade, they would give us a catalog, and we would be able to buy books, scholastic books. And our parents would give us a check or cash, and we'd give it to the teacher, and we would order books to read on our own. We could choose the books. I was obsessed with baseball. I always chose the baseball biographies. A lot of my heroes were African American. Willie Mays, Willie McCovey, Henry Aaron, Lou Brock, Maury Wills. I could go on and on. Willie Stargell, Lee May. So I'm reading these biographies of my heroes. A lot of them are African American baseball players. And I'm shocked that during the time they were playing baseball, they couldn't go into restaurants. They had to sit in the car while the white players went into the restaurant and had to bring food into the car. The black players couldn't drive around at night. They were scared for their lives. Their wives couldn't sit in the stands with the white wives. They had to sit in these other parts of the stands. The black players couldn't go on the train or the same train. They couldn't stay in the same hotels as the white players. And I'm saying to myself as I'm reading this, oh my God, man, whatever my heroes are going through, they're not teaching this to me in the history in school. And I just want to tell you guys something. One of the things about education, because I work in the education industry, I've been teaching composition, critical thinking, freshman comp for 35 years. I'm obsessed with what connects people to education, what wakes up the brain. And I want to tell you guys, if I was like 10 years old and you gave me some book on American history, some dry academic treatise on what was going on, I probably wouldn't have responded. But seeing Jim Crow and racism through the prism of sports, through the point of view of my baseball heroes, it was devastating. It was emotional. And it's like those emotional experiences that shape us for life. I mean, there are other things that shaped me too. I grew up in a diverse neighborhood where diversity was important. My neighbors were African American. Professionals were of diverse ethnicity. Doctors, lawyers. I saw this. There was a white racist lady in our neighborhood who sold real estate, and she tried to exclude people of color from my neighborhood. She was not invited to any of the holiday parties, Christmas parties, block parties. She was scorned. I saw this as a kid, that people who were racist were rejected, were scorned. You know, the adults in my community, they taught you with their actions, not just their words. So this shaped me. And so a combination of the type of community I grew up with in, and the books that I read about my sports heroes really shaped me, so that when I went to college and read the autobiography of Malcolm X, and he addresses Jim Crow, he grew up in Jim Crow. His white junior high school teacher told him not to aspire to be a lawyer or a doctor, that because of his skin color he should be some menial laborer, and it set off this rage in him in the chapter Mascot in the autobiography of Malcolm X, made into a great movie by Spike Lee. It changed him forever, and I'm convinced that my childhood experiences of reading about my sports heroes planted the seeds, so I was very receptive to Malcolm X's biography when I went to college. So, yeah, I mean, the simple answer of why I'm teaching Jim Crow, it's a relevant current event topic. The deeper answer is, honestly, I had a very intense emotional connection as a kid reading about Jim Crow through the prism of my baseball heroes. And I think the larger lesson for all of us is that in life, what changes who we are is not a dry intellectual history course in college. It's almost like a religious experience. It's all this huge emotional impact where you're punched in the gut. You should have seen my students when we were writing an essay on Black Panther a couple years ago. That movie was such a powerful experience for my students that as I was reading their essays, it was almost like a religious experience. And I really think education has to have that emotional power. Otherwise, it's just a dry history. No one's going to remember in that regard. It has to be an emotional experience. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's my framework for this assignment. I hope you benefited something from it. Until I see you in my Zoom office hour, all optional, all optional. Until then, I'm out.